What fight do I think Junior should be taking? He's 35 years old. I retired at 32. He's had his career. He's made his money. If he looks after it in terms of investment, he may get by. You lost to a fighter called Billy Saunders. You shouldn't have lost that fight. You lost it because you were disobedient to the plan that I gave you. You started fighting after the 6th round to prove to me that you could beat him at any time. I expressly put down in solid words, you are not fighting Billy Saunders, you are fighting the promoter. And you will not beat the promoter. As they say, you'd have to knock him out to get a draw. That's the humor they use, that's the influence of the promoters. And you gave him the first 6 rounds. As far as I'm concerned, the fight belongs to Harlem the Euabnk, and you should be fighting Billy Joe Saunders and record a win over him, which you should have in the first instance. What more can I say? Let's see. You're 35. Billy Saunders is maybe around the same age, I'm not sure. Would the public be interested in such a fight? Unfortunately, because promoters have been constantly rinsing the public with these fights, which actually are about names, not about abilities. So, they would take an interest in this fight. I think it's okay for me to actually say this. I trained you. I brought you up in this boxing. I gave you an extraordinary start. That is based on your ability to box. The style that you had was incredible, but you changed that style to that of Mr. Jones. This has made you, in my view, an ordinary fighter. I say this because it's not really you I'm speaking to, Junior. I'm speaking to the audience of fighters out there. You're looking for wisdom, young man. You should never have changed your style. Your style was one of brilliance. You are not a reflex fighter, which is what you have now gone to by dropping your hands. That's part and parcel of the reason why, you have decreased in ability, as well as your age. So these truths are what I speak. Now, some or a lot may say, well, okay, you're speaking against your son. No, I'm not speaking against my son. I'm speaking about the truth of boxing. I know there's a great deal of people, it seems, out there who are like, well, no matter what your son does, you got to be in his corner. You got to be behind him. How can you be behind someone who does not listen? Over and above that, someone who will do the opposite of what you advise. This is what I've had to deal with. You feel sorry for Junior. What about me? Have I ever done anything against my son? Have I ever done anything against any other fighter? Even with Conor now, I'm giving my nephew advice. Is that wrong? I'm not a cheat, and I'm not a liar, and I cannot be negotiated with. Buying me with money? You've got more chance in climbing through the eye of a needle. There's no chance. It doesn't exist. Okay. I've spoken to no one. Remember, If by Rudyard Kipling. It's real. It's not just a poem. Oh, it's a ditty. No, it's real. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. I make allowance. These people will learn the hard way. What I would say is, for those who are supporting boxing, be careful who you team up with. Those who are with me are clean. Rules will elevate the standard of boxing. The standard is at an all-time low. Am I talking about the abilities of the fighters? Oh, that too. But more specifically, the rules. How can you start mixing little weights with heavyweights? As though it's kind of like, oh, we can really do this. You can't do it. There was a fighter, I think he was a welterweight, could have been a light middleweight, and he was put into the ring with a middleweight. He suffered a fractured eye socket, this particular fighter. Some of you may know who I'm talking about. I don't want to mention any names for now. That fractured eye socket, whose fault is that? Ultimately, that goes into the promoter's situ. You don't do that. That's not supposed to happen. How do I know? Because I was actually put in there with, again, a Carl Thompson. I went up 2 weights. Seemingly this man almost killed me. So I speak from experience. I could say, well, okay, I wanted it because I thought I could beat him. Sometimes you have to protect us warriors from ourselves because we are fierce. We shy away from no man, irrespective of weights. That's why we have to be protected from ourselves. This is Call Chris Eubank. Where Harlem Euabnk is concerned, his strength of character as a fighter is extraordinary, but his strength of character in terms of dealing with the energy around boxing, perhaps he's not as strong as he should be. So again, I say to you, Harlem, irrespective of what they say, you be ready for that fight. You do what I told you to do. He's my nephew. Simon Eubank died. I am now his surrogate father. It's not unfair for me to be giving him this advice, as I would do anyone, especially as these people have been hounding me, Conor's father. They're writing me letters, and they speak so disparagingly about me. Even the son who I do nothing but praise. Never have I talked this young man down, and they laugh at me. You want to hear something funny? You have a school of fish. You have a herd of cows. You have a flock of chickens. I don't even know whether I should say this. Okay, you have a gaggle of geese. Remember, there's a troop of gorillas. The most obnoxious, ignorant, aggressive, and foul in terms of behavior is called a baboon. Now, when you talk about a group of baboons, you may be surprised to know that they are called a parliament. How could I have known that back in 1990 when I said to Nigel, let's have some parliamentary procedure here? You're saying, no, it can't be. Yes, look it up. I don't mean to criticize you, but you're acting like you are, and you always have been. And again, still, I have never said anything in the negative about you, Conor, or your father, in fact. I've only spoken the truth on your father. Why do you have such a disparaging view of your brother? You guys are funny. Not hee ha ha funny, just funny. If Nigel or Conor called me on Call Chris Eubank, would I take the call? Of course, I would take any call from anyone. But what possibly could they ask me without actually shaming themselves? And I say this not to antagonize you to call, but if you're going to call, make sure that you have your questions, make sure that they are checked back and front, okay? Because I'm sharp. This is not me being self-effacing. This is me being objective about how I deal with combat. If I knock over this cup here, you say, oh, he's knocked over the cup. So it causes a distraction. When someone says, okay, there's a rehydration clause, this has now become controversial between the combatants. This again it's a distraction. Why would I be distracted with that when my eyes are only on the rules? Do not be distracted from the rules. Little weights cannot fight big weights. Without rules, we become baboons. I'm gonna work, sir. And I don't work that way, okay? I work so that we can have harmony and that we can have a better standard of sport, if that's what you want to call it, or a better standard of civilized behavior. If it happens, then the rules have been trampled. I stand with the rules. So if you want to trample me, then be my guest. But you're going to have a very hard time doing that. My name is Christopher Livingston Eubank. What am I going to do on fight night? There will be no fight night. The boxing fraternity, they're looking at me like, oh, this he's really odd, this Eubank. He's really taking a chance here because everything is going for this to happen. No, it's not. Like it didn't the first time. I believe in the rules. That's why I'm king. I haven't spoken to media outlets because there's nothing to speak about. I've said on my channel that the fight doesn't happen. What more is there to say? If anything, I'm giving it fuel by talking about it. Fuel for what? I'm not looking for fame. You can't get more famous than me. My words will age well, irrespective of what happens. As you'll see,